Hello and welcome. My name is Hannah Kaufman from the FECC Writing Lab, and I am going to be talking today about assumptions in research writing especially. If you are here, you are probably working on a research-based assignment for one of your classes, and as you embark on that experience, you want to keep several things in mind. But one of the most important things to be aware of when you are out in the world doing research is to be aware not only of your own assumptions about a topic, but also to be aware of the assumptions of your audience and other people who might be out writing the information you're looking at when you are conducting your research. People say a lot of things about assumptions. There is, of course, the popular advice to never assume anything about anything. This is nearly impossible to do. All of us make assumptions about something or other. There's a maybe less delicate thing people say about assumptions, which is that assumptions make an ass out of you and me, which is maybe not professional, but it is definitely something to bear in mind when you're doing your research. So what are assumptions? You probably know that assumptions are preconceived notions, things we already think about a topic. And we think these things about a topic because of our lives and our experiences and the people whom we trust we're surrounded by that we talk to. Everybody growing up has been, coached about certain topics. They have people around them who have given them advice. They have people who are close to them who have undergone certain experiences. We read things on the internet. We read things in books. We learn things in school. All of these things collectively come together to form our own personal knowledge about a topic. When that knowledge is formed, it also usually brings with it an idea of what people are like who think differently. Because we've had our own experiences, because we've walked through certain circumstances or people close to us have, we tend to think that something is good or bad or something will happen if somebody goes through a particular experience. And people who disagree with us have the wrong idea about that topic because they haven't experienced what we've experienced and they haven't seen what these people have gone through. And if they would just understand what these people have gone through or what, this particular information is showing, then they would understand that this perspective is the right one and we would all fight for this thing together. The challenge there is the other individuals, the people we're usually trying to talk to, the folks who should be the audience for our topic. They have also walked through certain experiences. They have also faced challenges. They also have people close to them who have had certain experiences, and they are certain that something else is the outcome of whatever this person is experiencing. And because of that, if you just thought the way they thought, then everything would be okay. Now, I have an example for you because all of this is very, broad and general and confusing. So, I went out and I picked a fairly touchy topic. I selected the topic of corporal punishment, of spanking. And I got people's permission before I put this together, and I've redacted names and everything. But I was asking, what do people think about when they think about spanking, right? Spanking a child. What process do they imagine? I received several responses, but these ones here are probably the most useful for our purposes. So several folks, and I just grabbed a few of them here, several folks said that spanking is a swat on the backside of a child with a parent's open hand. This was kind of the general overall consensus, but there were a couple of other folks who came into the conversation, and they said that to them, spanking is a parent losing their control and hitting the child's body with their hand. Another person said the thought of being struck by the person who you love or who loves you most is unbearable. Another person compared it to assault and said that they were struck, hit, paddled, swatted, spanked by hands and by objects, by the people I was supposed to trust. I didn't feel loved. I felt angered at. Okay. Whereas these folks down here both had very similar responses. Spanking is helping a child learn the difference between right and wrong. It's only administered when the parent is under control. It's only used when there's a deliberate act of disobedience in which expectations were made clear for the child. Use an instrument like a rod, a dowel, a spanking stick. It will equalize the strength of the parent. The hand is powerful. It is an act of love. I love you too much to allow you to engage in destructive behavior. This works best from a young age. A couple of people also said it should only take place after there's a careful and calmly given explanation of why the spanking is occurring. Okay, so there's lots of different perspectives here on what spanking is and what it means. So let's say that we get two people in a room. Okay, we have a person in there who says that spanking is a parent losing their control and hitting the child's body with their hand. And we have a person in there who says that spanking is a carefully controlled action in which the parent has explained to the child what's going on, why it's going on. They've gone through a lot of steps. The parent is calm. There's no anger in the situation. Okay, so these people are standing in a room talking to each other. Let's say they're on social media talking to each other. This took place on social media. When you get a couple of people in a room, or let's say an author and an audience in a paper, and we're talking about a topic, there are 4 sets of assumptions that are in that room or in that essay, all working at the same time. There's the perspective of the author, right? There's the perspective of, let's say, this individual who says that spanking is a parent who's out of control hitting a child. Then we have this person here, okay? And they're saying that it's a parent who's in control, very carefully setting up the situation so that the child knows the spanking is coming. They know how it's going to be administered. They know why it's going to be administered. The parent is calm. We have a controlled situation. Okay, so here we're out of control. Here we're in control. This person is assuming that spanking is out of control. It's anger. This person is assuming that spanking is in control. It's calm. Okay. So both of these people are holding these assumptions. They also tend to then assume something about the other person. So if this person here is talking to this person who is pro-spanking, and this person's like, spanking is great, we have to do it, it's a valuable means of discipline for a child, the person who is anti-spanking is now also assuming something about the person who's arguing for spanking. Because the anti-spanking person thinks that spanking is an out-of-control parent, we're starting to think that this parent thinks it's okay to be out of control and strike a child in anger. Whereas this parent might think this parent is irresponsible for not using a calm, valid, carefully approached form of discipline. And I'm not saying that, you know, it's always calm and it's always valid. I'm also not saying that it's always somebody losing control, right? But when we're on social media, the problem is very much exacerbated because these two people are just using the word spanking. They're not stopping to think about what the other person means. They're not stopping to clarify. Instead, we usually tend to start resorting to insults, or we start to say things about the other person. You're ignorant. You are abusive. You are irresponsible. You're disrespectful, right? If you lived in my generation, you would know, well, you should know that this is abusive and whatever, instead of stopping to understand and ask questions. What do you think spanking is? What do you think spanking is? How do you think it's handled? Then we can get to, well, I still disagree about it, but I understand where that perspective is coming from. When you are writing from research, you must investigate not only the assumptions of the folks who you feel are incorrect, maybe uninformed, maybe ignorant, but you must also investigate your own assumptions. You have had lived experiences, maybe let's say in the realm of corporal punishment, maybe you experienced a positive form of, I don't know, spanking. But the other person you're talking to did not experience a positive form of spanking. So you must first clarify, what does spanking mean? How is it handled? And if we're talking about it in the context of this particular discussion, what does spanking mean in this discussion? Is it a swat on the backside with an open hand? Is it using a spanking stick? Is it any form of corporal punishment? What's the parent's action look like? Those kinds of things, so that the audience knows exactly what you're talking about and why you then are holding the particular assumptions that you hold. But you must also understand, this part's really, really challenging, okay? You have to understand that you assume certain things about the topic based on your own individual lived experiences and your own individual understanding of the topic. That is valid, okay? Valid means able to be supported by evidence, okay? Valid means able to be supported by evidence. This can be empirical evidence, meaning scientists, or it can be individual lived experiences. These are all evidence. Okay, and they're all real evidence. It really happened to you. So this is a valid, it's a likely outcome from a scenario. Okay, but the other person in the room who holds a completely different assumption, a completely different perspective, that perspective is often also shaped by their own lived experiences. It's shaped by the things they have been surrounded by, the things they have seen, the people they have known, the research they have done. It is also a valid perspective. And one of the hardest things there is to do for somebody who is trying to write about research is to understand and accept that two perspectives can be almost completely opposite and still be real, valid, necessary to consider evidence. When you come to that understanding, it changes the way you research, because now the research is not just to show this other person how wrong they are and that this other perspective is absolutely what we need to look for, but we need to understand, why do they have this perspective? What evidence out there supports it? Is it empirical, well and thoroughly backed information? Does our perspective need to change a little bit because maybe our experience was unique and outside of maybe what tends to usually happen? Was their experience unique and outside of what tends to usually happen? We need to investigate our own perspective to find out whether it's shaped on real evidence that we can demonstrate outside of our personal lived experiences. Can we find more information to support that? And we need to investigate their perspective. What evidence is there to support or to underpin what they think? And often what happens is you find that some of your assumptions are correct and some of your perspective is absolutely correct and evidence-based, and some of it has maybe been formed by a lot of people's hearsay over time. And some of their perspective really does have evidence to back it, and some of it has been formed by hearsay all over time. So when we invest that time and that effort in order to understand a topic thoroughly, if we're willing to let go of some of those assumptions, not only of what we think about the topic, but also of what we think of those people who are fighting for that topic, we begin to understand that There really is more nuance to each topic, and we need to narrow our understanding. We need to narrow our research and our topic in a little bit more so that we can find a particular avenue to investigate. We can investigate the assumptions and dispel some of them and explain some of them, and then find the research that supports, to the best of our ability, what is true or what can be demonstrated from expert information about that topic.